From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
The agreement will govern nearly $1.2 trillion in trade, which makes it the biggest trade deal in the United States history.
A new trade agreement between Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. comes just in time. Details on the revamped North American Free Trade Deal. But will that new deal go through?
But as President Trump said today, it's not going to be easy.
Harvest continues despite rain delays. In agribusiness, solving soybean prices in trade with China.
So we trade a lot of cargoes of soybeans out of my office into China.
Sure.
And we haven't traded a cargo since May.
And the business of cover crops in Tennessee.
AgDay, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The president calls it the biggest trade deal in American history as the ag industry welcomes a new trilateral agreement between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. Speaking in the Rose Garden Monday about what's called the USMCA, the president expecting the agreement to have a big impact on the farming community.
This new deal is an especially great victory for our farmers. Our farmers have gone through a lot over the last 15 years. They've been taken advantage of by everybody. Prices have gone way down, and we're working on some other deals that are going to make them very happy also. But this is a very, very big deal for our farmers. Mexico and Canada will be opened up a lot more than they are now. And I think there'll be a better spirit between the three countries, which is important for our farmers.
President Trump saying the deal will give American farmers and ranchers greater access to sell to Mexico and Canada. He said it should result in an increase in exports of wheat, poultry, eggs, and dairy products like milk, butter, cheese, and ice cream. Futures markets surging Monday following the 11th hour deal. American winning increased dairy market access into Canada 3.59%, which is more than the 3.25% access the U.S. would have gained in the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Canada also agreeing to drop its Class 7 milk ingredient pricing program. 3 products, milk protein concentrate, skim milk powder, and infant formula, will now be priced at the U.S. price. So what did the U.S. give up? U.S. negotiators agreeing to keep the tariff dispute settlement system. Canada also demanding protection from any automobile tariffs. And the 5-year sunset clause replaced with an agreement review after 16 years. The biggest questions left unanswered: will legislative bodies in all 3 respective countries approve the measure?
Although we don't know everything yet, I think the odds would suggest that Canada and the provinces will go along, especially if reports are accurate, and I think they are, that the impacted dairy producers in Canada will be compensated financially for the increased market access and the changes in their dairy program. I think the majority of Republicans will vote for it in both the House and the Senate next year. Usually Democrats do not vote for multilateral agreements in the majority of votes. So it's an educational level.
While U.S. groups are mostly positive about this agreement, dairy farmers in Canada remain more skeptical.
Following the agreements with the European Union and the Trans-Pacific, which sacrifice the equivalent of $250 million annually in dairy production to industries in other countries, now we're letting foreign products made according to standards inferior to our own onto the shelves of our grocery stores.
From the U.S. side, a joint statement from several of the major players in dairy saying, quote, the outlines of the NAFTA pact remain intact, which will allow the U.S. agricultural sector to continue developing new international markets for our farmers. We also need to pursue new free trade agreements with other nations and resolve our trade conflicts with China. Now, a North American trade agreement is not the only front for this administration. China continuing to be a major focus as the two sides remain locked in a trade war. White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow saying that this is further proof these trade negotiations are moving forward.
At the UN last week, we had very positive talks with the European Union, and we've had very positive talks with Japan, and now we've completed the new NAFTA, which I'm not allowed to say. It's USMA, United States, Mexico, Canada, USMCA. Got to get that right. We're sending China a message. They're not going to break up the allies. And there is a trade coalition of the willing developing to cure, if you will, I'll use that word generously, China's wrongs.
Harvest continues across the Midwest as the calendar turns to October. In the latest crop progress report from USDA, 26% of the nation's corn crop has been harvested. That's 9 points ahead of the 5-year average. Illinois, they're nearing the halfway mark. In major growing states like Iowa and Nebraska, progress has been slower. Farmers in the western Corn Belt experiencing a harvest lull over the last few days. Rain keeping Nebraska farmers out of the fields, halting harvest for up to 5 days for some. Arlington, Nebraska farmer Luke Laritzen saying he started harvest 15 to 20 days earlier than normal. He's not too worried about a major harvest delay quite yet.
We're in an area where probably the 1st of November we wrap up is kind of where we shoot for. So we still have, like we said, a month of harvest. Last year we were held out 10 days and that pushed us into, the first part of October, and then guys got a little frantic after that, but you can't control Mother Nature.
Tomorrow on Ag Day, we'll continue our I-80 harvest tour, including a report from western Iowa, where fields are soggy from all that rain. 23% of the soybean crop has now been harvested. That's 3 points ahead of the 5-year average. Parts of the South, they remain behind schedule following recent heavy rain events. Cindy Clausen joining us this morning with a look at crop comments. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Clinton. Randy Ermacher over in Hastings, Nebraska says this picture pretty much sums up how harvest has been going over the last couple of days. He's experienced rain delay after rain delay and has been out of the fields for roughly 4 days. It's a different situation for Jimmy Webb, and he's dealing with beautiful conditions in Leary, Georgia. Webb says that he's going to start cotton harvest today. Now, he says the crop looks better than he originally thought. Let's take a look at the winds that we are expecting today. Today, the focus is going to be in the western part of the country, the remnants of Hurricane Rosa moving to the northeast. As we head through the day, it's really for those areas from the plains westward that have the stronger winds. But watch what happens as we get into the overnight and into the day on Wednesday, as those winds really pick up with a cold front that'll be moving right on through the nation's midsection. So the plains all the way up to the Great Lakes as well. All right, that's a look at your national forecast. We're going to have more for you coming up in just a few minutes, but for now, here are your hometown temps.
Keeping track of the shifting market prices has never been so easy. Get the latest commodity prices sent directly to your cell phone with market updates. Just text MARKETS8 to 31313 to get started.
One trade issue possibly down, another big one to go. We'll have an update on the ongoing trade battle with China and how it may impact soybeans here at home next in Agribusiness. And covering up in an effort to make cash, the imports of cover crops today on In the Country. In Agribusiness, major markets gaining big on the new trade agreement with Canada and Mexico. Let's see how commodities fare on the floor of the CME in Chicago.
Today's soybeans rally. This new NAFTA agreement finally is underway. With this, the futures rally at that last-minute deal was finally achieved, and it's recovering Friday's losses and then some. So the market really spiked up. Interestingly enough, after the president had his press conference, the market even ratcheted up a little bit more, along with the corn as well. The corn jumps because of this new trade pact as well. It's really bringing stability back into the market and immediately adds some optimism on the horizons. That's all from the floor at the CME Group here in Chicago. I'm Virginia McGathey.
Andy Schisler with S&W Trading, our guest here at the Agribusiness Desk today. Andy, we've been kind of itching to get you back here to talk about this whole China trade situation. What's your take on where we stand today? Do you have a take?
No, I got a take, and it's really, really difficult. So like we trade a lot of cargoes of soybeans out of my office into China.
Sure.
And we haven't traded a cargo since May.
Oh, wow.
It's like we're
just shut it off.
Yes, shut off. Like our accounts are inactive, and we'll trade thousands of contracts a day, and we have not traded any. And it's like, so I just keep watching every day. I'm like, maybe somebody will buy something, maybe something's going to happen, and you always wonder, like, behind the scenes, is China like getting long? They got a strategy, and their strategy is everybody's got the handcuffs on. Nobody can do anything.
Locking it down.
Like
it's locked down.
I've never seen that before. It's locked down. It's locked down from the highest end of the government. It isn't a function of price. The tariff is on. They can buy beans cheaper here with the tariff on than anywhere. And they just don't care. I mean, they could pay $9, $10, $11, $12, $13 for beans and they don't give a crap.
Right.
And they have no coverage on in the market whatsoever. So there's zero covered. I've never seen that happen before either. So they want to keep the pressure on all the way up until this election. I don't know if they're wanting results or not, or if that even matters. But from our perspective, we see deals get done with Mexico because we have a lot of money that works with Mexico. We have factories in Mexico. We have a good relationship with Canada generally. There's things that can be fixed there, but like we do trade with Canada. We need steel and those things. Same thing with Europe. I mean, we trade a lot with Europe, but money's free back and forth. Well, guess where money's not free back and forth?
It's
China. Right.
Sure.
We can't just go move money there and do whatever we want. They can't let their people move money here. So the trade thing is really, really unfair, I think. And so like if we put a tariff on and maybe they put a tariff on against Walmart products and we pay more at the store, but I think we're okay with putting tariffs on their products as we make a lot of money in our government against it. And so I think our guys are willing to kind of sit there and wait this thing out a little bit. But I can tell you this, China usually buys about 30+ million metric tons of beans out of the US starting in October.
Right. And we're in October.
And we're in October. This is our export program, and we need to have these beans roll out of here, and that's a problem. And it's also a problem for them because guess what? There's no place with 30 million metric tons of beans to buy anymore.
Sure.
Nowhere. We're it. So like we're staring down the barrel here, and I want something to happen. I don't know if it will or it won't, but we're like in the last in the next month something needs to go.
Okay.
And so we'll see. But like I hope it does. I have no idea if it will or not.
All right.
I think it will though.
Well, hopefully it does. Hopefully,
Yes.
and it can happen fast. We know
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
For one-on-one marketing advice, call Andy Schisler with S&W Trading at 312-506-3888.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Your meteorologist Cindy Clausen. As we look at the weather map, and Cindy, let's talk about out west where they're getting quite a bit of rain this week.
Yeah, you can thank the remnants of Rosa for that. It's something that we haven't been talking about in the west for a while. Rain. Rain. We're so dry out there. So Rosa will continue, the remnants of will continue to bring a little bit of rain as we head through the next 24 to 36 hours and eventually get picked up and help some folks into the east as well. Let's see what's going on today. And you can see the remnants of Rosa right over Arizona, but that's not the only thing going on today. We've got a couple of low pressure systems, one moving over towards the Great Lakes area, another one out towards the northern plains. That all slowly moves to the east today. Rosa moves up through the Four Corners region, and notice we also have a front that's coming off of the Pacific into California as well. So as we head into tonight, we'll continue to see rain in parts of the east. We've got the second low now getting into the northern plains. We've got a stationary front over towards the border there. Look at that. We have some cold enough air for some snow. That continues. Rosa remnants continue to push northward, eventually getting absorbed into the jet stream and getting into parts of the north central United States. So here's Wednesday evening, and we're looking at some stormy conditions over the Great Lakes, but we still have some residual moisture in a lot of the southwest as well. Here's the estimate over the past 24 hours. It's been over by the Great Lakes where we've seen at least an inch of rain in some areas, and then we've got Rosa, the remnants, and as we add the next 24 hours, you can see that's going to continue, especially for folks in Arizona, but then follow the fronts as we get into the northern part of the country. Now, temperature-wise, we're looking at warm conditions south. That front, you can see it's much cooler on the north side of that, so we're looking at 50s and 60s across the northern tier states, and then in Rapid City, you've got that lone 79 up there. To heading into the overnight hours, we are seeing temperatures the coolest on the north side of the front, clearly 60s and 70s in much of the nation's midsection. We've got 40s and 50s up in the northwest, and we're going to see some colder air coming in. Temperatures for tomorrow's high only 46 in Billings, but we've got the 80s through the plains. That cold front will swing through, and that'll cool everybody off as we get into later in the week. As far as the jet stream, we've got a trough out in the west that will make some slow movement and a little trough moving through the nation's midsection. Watch though what happens as we get into the weekend. Big ridge develops in the east while a big trough in the west. So it's going to be a tale of two seasons across the country with cool temperatures out in the west and very warm conditions expected in the eastern part of the country. That's a look at your national forecast. Now let's check on the weather where you live. Clarkdale, Arizona, showers and thunderstorms with heavy rain possible, a high of 72 degrees. Glencoe, Minnesota, mostly sunny or mostly cloudy skies. You might have a chance for showers and thunderstorms tonight with a high of 61. Fort Plain, New York, showers and storms.
Dairy prices impacted by so much more than just NAFTA. We'll take a closer look next in our Dairy Report, and how tailgating, even your kid's school lunch, could have a big impact on prices. Next.
Plan for the unexpected with weather forecast updates. Local forecasts are delivered right to your cell phone each morning, making planning a little bit easier. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
In our Dairy Report, the FDA is considering changing the way plant-based products are labeled. This includes products like soy-based alternatives to cheese and nut-based alternatives to milk. The goal is to clear up possible confusion for consumers about these products. The announcement came in the form of a public comment request. The FDA Commissioner, Scott Gottlieb, saying that the organization was concerned the labeling of some plant-based products may lead people to believe those products have the same nutrition as dairy products. The National Milk Producers Federation welcomed the news, saying, quote, quite simply, just adding plant protein, calcium, and a few other ingredients to water does not make it milk. A possible trilateral agreement with Canada and Mexico isn't the only thing giving U.S. dairy prices a boost. Analysts say seasonally, it's the peak of the market for dairy products. It usually is the fourth quarter of the year. Since it's back to school time, tailgating season is upon us, and the holidays are around the corner.
We're coming into the school year. We've got big demand as college goes back and students demand more pizzas. We have people ordering pizza for football games. We're preparing for the holidays. This is not an ordinary trend. So to see barrels this week is very questionable. The reality is the market is giving us prices that are average. Okay. Which,
yeah. Well,
given everything we know, if we are near the 10-year average for milk and we look forward into the next year, that's actually an opportunity. And so with where the dairy markets are at, I would say that producers, even though they won't be excited about $16 milk,
sure,
should maybe take a second look at what $16 means versus the $14 prices that we often see in the first half of the year. And that opens up some conversations.
The benefits of a cover crop and when you should turn it back into cash in the country.
In the Country, brought to you by Kubota's M5 series, bringing new levels of comfort to hard work. Learn more at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
Harvest time is here, and on many farms, a money crop like soybeans or cotton will be the second thing grown in that same field this year. The University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture is looking into cover crops, and Charles Denny has more on how they can save the soil in the country.
Planting one crop so that the next one thrives. This cotton is the second thing growing in this field in 2018. A few months back, this same area was covered by grasses, a cover crop to stabilize the soil while it waits for the money crop to follow.
It really provides a blanket protection over the soil during a time frame in which we're not typically growing a crop.
Tyson Raper with UT Extension is researching cover crops and impact on cotton yields. He wants to know when to get rid of the cover to make way for the main event.
When do you terminate? How do you terminate? How do you set your planter up to best manage that residue, to move the residue away from the row and get a good, consistent seed placement?
Incorporating cover crops into no-till farming systems was a theme for the 30th Milan No-Till Field Day. 96% of Tennessee row crop land is conservation tillage or no-till, plants growing on top of the residue of a past crop. Cover crops are the latest chapter in no-till ag.
Basically, the need for the cover crops is to have something on that soil year-round to provide cover for that soil. And so we're looking at the different species and different multi-species mixes to see what might be best for our different row crop situations.
The idea behind cover crops combined with no-till is to improve the soil and save it. When a heavy rain hits a field like this, both methods reduce storm runoff and erosion.
More and more producers are covering up. UT Extension's Farmer of the Year, John Varell, grows 5,000 acres of corn, soybeans, and wheat in Jackson.
We've been using cover crops for 5 or 6 years now, and we've been raising wheat, and most of our rotation consists of corn followed by wheat, so we're almost a 50-50 rotation with wheat. So that we've learned through the wheat that we really help control the erosion just from the wheat.
There are challenges with cover crops, mostly if you're dealing with thick grasses. But the end result seems to be increased water holding capacity, healthier soils, and higher yields. One crop leads to another, reaching for cover. This is Charles Denny reporting.
All right, thanks, Charles. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Spent part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day in farm country.